All right, here we go. Three, two. Hey, hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just gonna we are short one of our players tonight. So we're gonna continue on just by looking at some of the kind of the character creation. I I am gonna post the overall what we talked about with our characters. I think we're gonna use this time just kind of review some stuff, make sure we did it right, and kind of get into what our characters look like and how they kind of operate within this world. So thanks for being here. Uh, one, the first thing I want to talk about before we get into the crunchy mechanical rule stuff is that I know last session we talked very specifically about whether we wanted to use real nationalities and countries or do we want to go with fictionalized alt history stuff so we can kind of do whatever we want, maybe base it on stuff. Because one thing I will tell you is that the Baroness is from a country called Bulgaria. Bulgaria. And she lives in Castle Bram, which, you know, is nothing like the actual Castle Bram in Bulgaria. These are two very different places.
Yes, obviously.
So it's, it's one nice thing. I learned this from doing like Party First is that it's neat to have kind of base it a little bit on the country, but then you can do whatever you want with it, like without you can still have some of those cultural identity sort of things, but then you can also get rid of and or um, introduce new cultural identities without stepping on anyone's feet. Um, but one thing that I did read about, which is interesting, never had an issue with this before, is that sometimes if people do that, then they take real license with their fictionalized culture that they're basically playing that culture, right? And they're doing the worst stereotypes of that culture. So it can be a tricky, slippery slope here too. So, what do you guys feel is going to be most comfortable for you? Like you guys have already kind of had your characters created. How do you feel about it right now?
So I will say, we were talking about earlier that I did originally have an idea in my head that was going to be like a fictionalized version of existing, and I knew well enough that I was going to play it and have like constantly being like worried about appropriation in my mind, like constantly, and I was just like, I don't want to deal with that. So I still intend for mine to be a fictionalized, much like Bulgaria. It's probably going to be something very similar, or look at mine more just like okay, even naming a specific country, just say it is a Nordic country. We know
Sure.
what region that
Yeah.
is. It is in Scandinavia. I'm not even going to specify what country in Scandinavia. We're there somewhere. We're kind of inspired by Nordic lore. That's
Yeah. That was another idea that I was thinking of, and maybe this would be a better way to do it too, is that to take I started doing research on this already. Maybe it's better to say um, folklore background and then just take a look at the world map and just go like, all right, here are these different areas. Hey guys, hi, love you guys. Can you? I mean, um, the the different cultural areas, like, hey, this is Nordic, right? This is Asiatic. This is European. You know, maybe it's better to do that. Never name the country that you're from exactly. Just kind of do that for a background. Um, that's an idea too. Where were you going, Eric? What were you thinking?
Straight up Irish.
Yeah, and you guys were
And
just there too.
yeah, I was there. I mean, I have Irish in my family history. That being said, there's plenty of horrible stereotypes you can apply to the Irish that I will try not to do, um, like any other culture. But
Yeah.
uh, even just as a thing, as we play test, like, all right, does it work or does it not work? Like, if you really truly try to use history and a real place and real names, and does it
Right.
get in the way? Does it make it more fun? Does it make it less fun? I don't know.
Right.
So I'm gonna try it that way if that's cool.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to do it whatever way we're comfortable with right now to kind of see how it works, right? That's part of the playtesting process. Um, because I love the idea of Egyptian because that's part of the thing too is that I want to explore these different folklore tropes that different countries and different areas have. 'Cause there's so much stuff out there, it's impossible to know it all, right? There's some really cool stuff out there that's just what I would think is bizarre, but that's just part of the culture, right? It's just part of the folklore that's really cool. But I also
And I
understand
think
like you've got a huge Nordic background yourself, right?
and I think had I gone the Egyptian, because that I don't think I said that since you've been recording,
Mhm.
but Egypt was what I was looking at. It would have definitely been a fictional inspired by, and like I have done enough research about some Egyptian folklore that I feel like I could be okay. But I was still just like, I don't want that to be like
Yeah.
color, like clouding how I play, and like it's beyond my mind. Um, but I mean, I'd be happy to go that route
No, I want you to
sometime
be comfortable.
if you want to see how it plays out. And
Co- Comfortability
not
first.
necessarily for this character, I'm just saying for a future
Yeah.
something. I'm happy to
Okay.
give it a shot. And if I'm like, I would prefer that not be posted on the internet, was worth a try.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I get that. Yeah, comfortability first. We're really playtesting the rules and all that stuff. Because the other thing that occurred to me too that I don't know if I really went over for the character creation is that everyone that's a cursed rider is also going to be an immigrant into this area. Now, there was a lot of immigration happening during this time, right? But you're still going to be considered an outsider. So not only are you an immigrant, but you're also known to be, I don't know if people know that you're specifically cursed per se, but something is weird and mystical about you guys. And they also know that you work for the Baroness, which isn't necessarily a good thing in the area, right? Once you leave the Cursed Territories, which I don't have anything written up for that right now, but I think that will be something in like a longer campaign thing. Like you leave the cursed setting, the Cursed Territories, no one's going to know about who the Cursed Riders are, right? So you'll be able to move around with a little bit more anonymity, um, which might be interesting too, right? I don't know. So that being said, that was the first thing I really wanted to talk about was just kind of culture and how we're going to try and move forward working with it. I still have not written anything in for indigenous folk, for natives on there because I still need to probably talk with someone how to do this right. You know, like I've got a couple friends, I can just talk to them, but I think I should probably talk to a professional, you know, uh, to really figure out how this should play out because I want their story to be told at least a little bit to be brought up. So I want the old world, the new world, in the already existing traditional traditions here too. And I think that's going to be a fantastic thing to try and play around with. Now, that being said, I know Eric, you wanted to maybe take a look at the characters and see what was going on with them. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull up the character sheet for people to take a look at. This is Eric going with Dan Kelly. Nice. Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
As far as like how much of the backstory like influences gameplay and mechanics specifically, I guess, right? Like as far as like how much do we need to discuss about what the Baroness did or did not do, or what Dan did or did not do, like, and how does that inform how we play? So
Yep.
we have all the numbers here, right? Like
Mhm.
theory, we
Yep.
can play with this, but what
Sure.
What else can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as what your haunt is, like what did you do in your relationship with the Baroness? That is something specifically that you don't know.
Right.
Okay. Because that's part of the process of you becoming a cursed writer is that um, not only do you have a soul debt to the Baroness for 10 souls, she saved you from where you were at originally, right? It could be directly from the country you're originally from, or it could be on your way here that she somehow helped, or she helped you in some way. Okay. Now, part of that deal was not only to help you escape from where you're at, but she also took your memories that these memories are so bad that they would drive you mad. You couldn't live with yourself because of the haunt. You did something specifically that I should say at that particular time, you could not live with yourself. So that was part of her quote unquote gift too, is to remove those memories. So now every time that we trigger a haunt, I have got 5 to prompt. Okay. And one thing that's going to be fun about this, I hope that's going to be a little bit more of the improv on your guys' part. The reason I don't want you to think about what you may have done or whatever, I want you to kind of get into the idea of like, well, you're wanted. So when that comes up or when you want to use that to get a legend point, is that how does that affect your day-to-day life? How does it complicate the scene that you're in right now? You know, you can introduce a complication that then I'll just write down or whatever that maybe we can trigger it later. But when your haunt actually triggers, I'm going to ask you a question. I'll tell you what the first question of the haunt is because it's just kind of the setup ballpark haunt question. The first haunt that happens, whoa, that was cool, is how did the Baroness save you? Okay. And how does it relate to the
Mhm.
scene that you're in right now? So that's how that's going to work. And then when you trigger your haunt
Okay.
again, the next question is then talking specifically about where were you? What were you doing? How does your haunt it starts to explain it more and more until you get to if you get to the 5th haunt before you pay off your soul debt, um, then your character is going to remember what they did and they're going to not be able to handle it and they're no longer a playable character. I
Sure.
was going to save this for when this happened because I got really excited about it, but I'm going to share it with you. Okay. So,
Mhm.
your main goal is I have a section in the rulebook called Why Do We Play? Your main goal is to get to the scene called Ride Off into the Sunset. And that is to the um, pay off the Baroness, and then you have this big scene on your own. This is you going away. And I have 5 prompts. You don't have to answer, but I think it would be a good scene for you to be able to tell. Here are the prompts. First is, do you have all your memories returned to you? Like, do you choose to remain just ignorant of what you did? Or do your memories come back and what did you do exactly? Okay. 2, did the Baroness falsify any of your current or return memories? Like maybe you asked for memories to come back, but you asked her to change something,
Sure.
right? Um, Third, how do you deal with the trauma of the haunt? Like how, if you choose a quote unquote happy ending, how do you handle the trauma to keep on going, right? Um, what did you do also to halt the progression of your folklore curse? Like if you're a lycanthrope, how did you learn to stop fully turning into that mindless monster, right? And then final one is, do you stay in the cursed territories? Do you go back to your home country or do you just wander the world after this? Like these are all this is your best case scenario ending for your character that you get to answer these questions. And it can be a story. What I'm hoping is that the final scene, if you once you pay it off, is that you have this tremendous redemption arc that you've told throughout these different adventures you've had to go on that you've related to the scenes you've been on in them. So it should tell this sprawling saga that people will tell about your character later on. Like these will be the tall tales of the Cursed Territories, right? That people will talk about. Your characters are a little bit bigger than everything else. You have these mystical powers that people can't explain, you know. Will people think that you're real or are you just fables that once walked land? Okay. So that is your best case scenario. Hopefully, it's this big, beautiful redemption arc. But I also love and understand that for some characters, that's not going to be the right ending. Like some characters, the memento ending is the correct ending, where it's just like, nope, I don't get my memories. In fact, the Baroness, as a favor to me, after I pay off my soul debt, she makes me remember that I'm someone else. And then I stay in the cursed territories and I make shoes. And I just live in the town next door and I never even know that I was a cursed rider myself. Some things come up from my past that are weird, but whatever. That happens. So that's your best case scenario. That's riding off into the sunset. Now, here is fun things that I've gotten to do. If your character dies, you get to make some choices. Okay. Sometimes when you play a character, there's just bad dice, right? That happens. Sucks, you know. And sometimes you're just done playing a character at times too, where it's like bad luck can happen and I'll culminate in like, you know what, this is a good way to die for my character. So you have a choice. You can, three choices really. You can go out in a blaze of glory where you get as many actions as a row as legend points that you have, and you automatically succeed in each one. Like you'll still roll dice, right? But if you fail, you still succeed by one. So you can just like go out and like and most of the time when you die, it's going to be in some sort of conflict, right? Like if you get caught in an avalanche and like, you know what? My character doesn't get caught in the avalanche. In fact, it finds the path out and all this stuff. And at the end of going out in a blaze of glory, then if you want to take it home and tell how your character is shown dying on screen with no chance of coming back, go for it. Or you can leave that up to me to be like, okay, I shoot these two guys over here, and then I hit this horse over here to make it run off, and then I, set off the dynamite, you know, then I can take over and then the mountain like explodes and the mountain falls on you. Like, just that's it. Like the big thumbs up at the end of Terminator, like you're dead. That's it. No coming back. So you can go out in a blaze of glory. You can make a deal with the Baroness. You're removed from the scene, and then the next scene, you come back fully healed. You have to tell us a quote unquote reasonable story of how the Baroness said that you weren't done yet, and your soul debt goes up by 5.
What is the what are the odds that we're like how staggered could we be as far as like paying off our debt? Like, is there a good chance that one of us pays it all off and the other two have another session left? Like, how would that work?
Very high. It's a
Okay.
very high possibility. And at that point in time, everyone could maybe just choose, like, you know what, that was a really fun series of sessions. We're just going to be done. But so I haven't gotten into what we're going to do at the beginning of the adventure before you even start anything. You have a choice of doing two things. Oh, I forgot to tell you the third option. The third option is to go out with a whimper, where you can just be like, you know what, my character's dead. Like that happened. They're just dead. I don't want a big glorious thing. I'm just it's fine. That can be a fine option too. So all right. So then before every saga begins, like in Honor Bound, we're doing these little kind of mission things that we narrate to roll dice to build up our pools. The same thing is going to happen in this game, except it's going to be a lot more structured. You're going to choose to do one of two things. You're going to choose to either gamble or you're going to choose to go bounty hunting. If you go bounty hunting, this is how you can get more silver. Okay. It also means you can take damage. Like you can start the adventure at like half life. That can happen if you roll badly enough. You shouldn't, but again, dice are dice, right? Uh, or you could, if you go gambling, it is so if we said that there's 12 um, cursed riders at any given time, you can, if, sorry, let me just reset that. So when you can gamble, and because you guys more or less narratively are kind of immortal, right? If you keep making a deal um with the Baroness, is that the only thing that's worth gambling for is your souls. So if more than one person chooses to gamble for their souls, you gamble with each other. So someone's going to go up, someone's going to go down. And it can be as many people as we want. And if only one person wants to gamble, that's fine. They just roll against a random cursed rider during their downtime. Um, and then the GM just rolls 5 dice. And the thing is, like, you just roll the dice from your pool and keep two. Everyone starts with one legend point, so you can spend it if you want to, but may not be the best use of your thing. So yeah, it's almost guaranteed that you're not going to end all at the same time. Because there's other things too that are going to happen. There is a way in the very first adventure that I'm going to have you guys go on. One person has a chance to lower their soul debt if they do something specific. So these are big things, though. Like it doesn't just happen every adventure. And when you run into it, you'll recognize exactly like, oh, bet I could do this. So so yeah. Any other kind of questions about the background or how the world kind of works? I made a map. I don't think I've shown you that. So
No.
now we're gonna do hex traveling.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got tables galore to roll on. You guys are going to be in New Rouge. There's Castle Bram, and then right next to it is New Rouge. New Rouge is going to be your place where you bunk down, your headquarters, more or less. Upper left hand is going to be Mercy Rock Plantation, where they use the damned to do the work. Upper right hand corner is the Township of Purity. That's where most of your missionaries are going to be based out of, moving west. The company rail is that kind of faded gray line going through. If you take the rail, you can travel 4 hexes at once. Uh, you got the crossroads up there. You got the mountains, Leviathan Backbone, Bramble Springs. You don't know if that's the name of the river, if that's the name of the town. Jericho, which is in the bottom left-hand corner, that is where soul merchants in the silver mines are. The Wilds is 100% the place where like the folklore stuff really comes alive is in the wilds because it's this like deciduous forest that should not be there, you know, like all the best stuff happens in forests. Um, the Wandering Bazaar, that is a group of people that actually came over with the Baroness. Um, and it's told that you can find anything there to trade and barter for. And then you got the Warrens. That's where Clan Conley lives. They're kind of from where you're around, Dan Kelly. Um, they are. it's a family of people led by Mama Conley, and the family is massive. I've never seen the movie The Hills Have Eyes, but I've had it described to me that that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. This a bunch of kind of redneck um, Irish hillbillies that I don't like. Is that kind of kind of the vibe I'm going for? And the thing is, like, they're all just trying to survive. They're all kind of mean spirited, and when they come to town, like, we have a gang of outlaws that you can't just take in without having to deal with the rest of the gang, is Clan Conley. So
It has a good cast. I've never seen the movie either.
it
I'll check it
is.
out.
Um, Before you do that, my wife
Yeah.
loves horror. Um, so she'll never watch that movie again.
Too
There's a couple
scary.
scene graphic, just there's a couple really graphic scenes that are like, I'm not gonna watch it ever. So I
All
will
right.
tell you
I know
that.
nothing about it.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. Like you can take the train if you're on near the rails, you can take your horses that you automatically get. You can move 2 hexes a day with a horse. You can walk for 1 hex a day. You can also take steamboat. There is River Kandaya. Sorry, Konyandar, I think. I'll have to look it up. Um, that river flows to mysterious places in the Khurst Territories. Goes underground. It seems to be there's always you can get to almost anywhere on the map by the river. There's gulches, canyons, that sort of thing. However, like the people that run these steamboats are like ferrymen. They know something that no one else does to be able to travel through this safely. Like there's things that live underground that you don't want to run into. So you can travel the furthest by steamboat, but there's also a chance you'll trigger your haunt. Like everyone will have their haunt trigger if you go on the steamboat too. So that one's the most only in desperate times will you take a steamboat. Yeah, everything else looks good. I'm happy with the map, how it turned out. Um, there'll be when you do a mosey and roll, so move your like taking the horse or walking, you have to roll on a table. Um, Stuff can happen. Yeah, that's kind of the bigger stuff, like the gameplay of that we're moving around. So on your characters, you have a pretty good idea then. Like, does that help you get your character kind of formed up in your mind, Eric?
For sure. Like, I think I have enough, like, what I know for some background stuff, but obviously a lot of it's going to be, created when we trigger the curses anyway, right? With the
Like the
haunts.
trauma, yeah, the trauma
Yeah.
of your
Definitely.
haunt is going to be unknown. The whole thing is unknown. You can have an idea about it though, right? That you can kind of
I
play
think I, but
into.
I know that, I know that I did something. I don't know what it is. Essentially, is
Hmm.
where I'm at. But I think I get an idea. I think I know how I'm a Fey blood and some of that kind of stuff. Uh,
Yeah,
and
like
some
that's a question I've got for you guys. Like, did you guys pick out real folklore stuff, or are you just like, you know what? I'm just gonna have this character that's kind of based off of a couple different little things that I've heard of, and when it comes out, that's what it'll be.
mine's not as specific, but I think Rachel's is more specific. Am I wrong?
Um, kind of because we're not actually playing tonight. There's one story I want to read and see if it ties into that or not. It's like a story I know has at least one element, but whether it's connected to the whole story or not. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on.
I'm doing more of like a fey creature, and the idea of a fey wild that exists, and using some specific places in Ireland that was, legend says it was had
Yeah.
connections to it, but not as necessarily a very specific fey creature.
Yeah. And I think like right now I've got The Walking Dead has the superstition weakness, but I think I want to change that to the Fae. That makes more sense to me than allergic reaction. I think The Walking Dead should have more of a walking or should have more of an allergic reaction because like sunlight, silver, like silver bullets, salt,
Mm.
like what other like things that you like
Running
thermal.
water, garlic, crosses.
Yeah, yeah. Like those are all allergic reactions. And I think I should switch those around. So the Walking Dead should be allergic reactions, and then the Fey-blooded should be superstitions. I like that better. Um, it'll also be a lot more fun too. I like that idea of going to the idea like, oh, now you always have to tell the truth, you know, or
Sure,
you only like maybe the superstition is if they know your real name then you have to tell the truth all the time,
sure, sure, sure,
something
sure.
like that. So, and what's going to be fun about this is that there's going to be just enough people that know you guys are from different tribes because there'll be some of your related tribe folk here already, right? So that'll be something interesting to think about too. Um, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm really fired up to do this. This is kind of it's not the biggest reaction that I've had to a game coming out, but as far as one that I've just put together 100% from the beginning, like Goblin Market has been awesome, and I cannot wait to do more with Goblin Market. I'm working on a campaign for that too. But for this, for my own like setting and all the stuff coming out of the gate has been a really good response to it, and I'm excited to get something out there. And I just want to play it. It sounds
Yeah.
fun. Like, there's only
I
one
love that.
mechanic that I'm really worried about, and we'll just run into it and run into it is like if you roll and you gain a new um folklore power, right? In the middle of something, explain how why you got there's a prompt for that and like is that gonna feel good? Because you're gonna become a lot more powerful, right? Because you get a whole nother once per adventure thing that you get to do. But it can just be random because it'll just pop on the table. So I don't know if that's gonna work or not, but we're gonna find out, I guess.
Yeah.
You know. So, what do you think? Rachel, do you want to talk about your character at all?
I
Or you
think
want
I have a pretty good grasp on what I'm envisioning. Like I said, there is a story I want to go read. 'Cause I was trying to tie it into existing lore that I was not as familiar with. And then I found like one story that I was like, ooh, 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 ooh. But I haven't had to read it yet
yeah, I
or
was
read a
really
summary of it.
that's awesome. I'm really excited for that to be kind of part of the game too, of like finding and discovering stuff that I've never heard of. I think folklore is amazing, and I think it'll be a really fun part of the game. Um, I'm so curious. I'm dying to know. Like I'm dying to know, but I feel like we should save it for gameplay. Is what kind of lycanthrope you're going to be. Like,
I'm happy to tell you.
uh, um,
If
I
you
don't
want to be
think
surprised, that's fine too.
I think I want to be surprised. I think I want to be surprised. I'm one of those weird people that will wait till the day of Christmas to open presents, even though I know we're adults, we don't have to anymore. But you know, okay, right on. Was there
Oh, I do know what.
okay, awesome. Did you pull from? I know you're reading the story. Did you pull any ideas from your own like upbringing at all?
Um, don't think so. Now that I think about it. I mean, I might have a deep love of Lefse, but it's not as far
For
as, like, the lore, I think if I was gonna pull in lore that I knew growing up, it would be more related to, like, trolls, and I don't have any troll stuff in what I've come up with, so
Do you want to describe to people what that dish is that you just mentioned for people that don't know?
Lefse so Lefse, as North Dakotans and Minnesotans do it, because I know it is not truly authentic anymore.
Eh,
But, so somebody in Norway would describe lefse very differently than I'm about to. In North Dakota, it is like a essentially you make like mashed potatoes, and then you add some flour to it, roll it really, really, really thin because once it has the flour, it'll just like roll like a tortilla. And so you roll it like a really super thin tortilla, and then you cook it on a really high temperature, and then it becomes kind of like a little flatbread that is potato. You smother it in butter, pour some sugar on it, roll it up, and eat it. Yeah. It's
So
Lefse is
potato
it's
amazing.
flatbread
It's awesome.
with butter and sugar.
What is the
Mashed
horrible
potatoes with butter.
what's the horrible fish one? That's what I was thinking first.
me too.
Lutefisk.
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 Ooh, that's the bad one. Ugh.
Lutefisk, I don't know what kind of fish, but it's like soaked in lye, and you have to like open jars of it underwater, and you still manage to stink up your whole apartment building because
That's
it just
interesting that you say
smells
that.
so.
Your apartment,
Or
what it
house, or wherever you live.
Like it happened to me. It actually is not. I somehow, even though I like lutefisk, about to say a word Eric also doesn't like. Lutefisk feeds. Lutefisk cookouts. I don't know what to call them. Are also common, and somehow I have never been to one, and I have never actually tasted lutefisk. I have smelled it, but I've not tasted. And I have not opened a jar of it in my own apartment. I
Yeah,
have
just being
heard
from
stories.
Northwest Iowa, like I know some of that stuff. Visited Decorah though several years ago during Lutefisk Festival. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I looked at it and I was like, no, not for me. But you know what? Next time if
Yeah,
I do it, I'm
Decorah
way
has
more
like
adventurous.
Decorah, Iowa has like the National Scandinavian American Heritage Museum, which is super
Yes.
legit if anybody ever sees it or is around there. They have Nordic Fest. I would very much like to go to Nordic Fest sometime.
Yeah. Me too. That'd be cool.
Um, super fun stuff. Lots of lefse. Lefse. I make lefse every December. So if anyone
Uh,
wants to place an order for some lefse, it's a once. I do it one day a year because it takes a long time.
Smoke
It's
good.
usually it's in special tools, but I make it one day a year, then I freeze a bunch.
that sounds amazing. Um, Eric, did you for your character, are you Irish at all?
I am.
Yeah.
Uh, my on my mom's side, there are Kellys. That's why I picked
Hmm.
Kelly. Uh, but it's not like I had any like specific like Irish roots and like traditions or anything like that at
Yeah.
all. Um, the side of the family that is Irish, I didn't really grow up close to. So like on the farm was all German and British. So I
Yeah.
didn't ever really have a strong connection to the Irish stuff. So
Yeah, same.
I should
Like,
say I should also establish I personally have no Norwegian or like Scandinavian heritage. I am super German. I just grew up surrounded by it. And I'm realizing now that like, German is where like all of the classic werewolf stories come from. And if I'm a lycanthrope, I maybe should have just gone with German. But Nordic is. Sorry, go ahead, Jared. Tell us about your heritage.
yeah, like I am like half Scottish and then Polish, German, Irish, I think. So like after that, but it's yeah, like 50% Scottish. Same thing though. Growing up on the farm, like No, we didn't really talk about anything. My dad always talked about doing haggis for the holidays or whatever, but still haven't.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, he does haggis every year, but just stopped doing that when he became vegetarian. Obviously, he can't really do haggis anymore, but
So poor guy. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Much
Maybe
like
that's why
Ludafisk,
he
I have
turned.
no desire to have haggis either.
Maybe that's why he turned vegetarian.
Yeah.
Um, right on. So as far as like your characters, I feel really good about kind of having an idea of what the setting's going to be like. As far as like the adventures that you guys are going to go on for the playtest, for the recording, we're just going to do one. We're going to do the Salvation of Honest Jacob. Now that is you can get it for free, pay what you want, I should say, on Drive-Thru RPG right now or itch.io. Please don't go read it before you play it. It's only 3 or 4 scenes long, the whole thing, but it should help us go through the whole gamut of all the skills, and it should allow us to look at different aspects of your character, what you can do and what you can't do. I think having 3 characters does a good job of pulling it out. Now, one thing when we get together, I noticed that both Eric and Aaron picked the exact same 3 skills to be good in on their character sheet. Now, one thing that I like about this system so far, I'll pull it up for the folks that are following around at home on video, uh, is that even though the skill points are relatively spread out the same, the characters are coming off very different still. So I think that is an interesting dynamic. It's a good thing to test. Is that, you know what? What if people do things like it's the same thing that happened with you guys on Honorbound too. You guys kind of picked out the same kind of skills and background sort of thing, but the 2 characters played differently. In this case, they're going to play a lot differently, I think. That being said, if you guys ever need to find something or fix something, you better hope Rachel's character is available. Like, you guys can still do it, right? But on harder stuff, you better hope that her character is around. So we'll we'll see how that goes because she is going to be busy then at times when you guys are just going to be standing around. But you know what? That's okay. That's how role playing goes sometimes. So yeah, I like the spread. I like the backgrounds. I am fascinated by the Fey gunslinger. I'm fascinated by the seeker detective person. I Aaron's character is just creepy, and I'm excited to see how that all rolls together, all together as a group because you guys have such distinct characteristics, and you're all going to be together to even stand out as more of a sore thumb in this world. But I want that. I think that's cool. You guys should stand out. You are different. You're, yeah, we're here to make big folklore stories that you're going to tell about yourselves too through your haunts and your folklore curses, which are really blessings, honestly, until you get too many of them, and then you go too far down that path of whatever your family lineage has been cursed with. So I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are too.
Man.
Right on. Is there anything you guys want to go over while we're hanging out?
Okay.
Right on, right on. I'm just gonna say, hey everyone, thanks so much for hanging out with us. The next time we're gonna get together, we will do the first scene of the salvation of Honest Jacob, and I'm excited to see what these guys do. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Have a good one. All right, I'm gonna turn off the recording.